We are now.
For the presentation. Okay. Great. And with that, I guess I can hand it to you, Professor, to introduce the IBM presentations.
Sure. Let me get myself set up here. There we go. So, my machine is fighting me right now. So I think for the IBM presentations, I don't have slides, so I think you guys are going to present. Is that true?
I've made a folder that you can access. Indeed, everyone can access, but you may need a box ID to do so. But let's have the IBMers share their slides if you can give them sharing authority.
I think they should have it. I'm gonna
Okay.
Unlock myself.
Yep. Let's get started then with Luciano.
Sure. Let me see if I can share my slides here. Okay, I'm sharing.
Yes, you are.
Hey, everybody.
Okay, hold on just a second, Luciano. Let me
Sure.
Let me reconfigure so I actually have your stuff.
Okay.
Luciano, did you upload your slides to the folder?
I will do it right after.
Okay.
There we go. You are now good. Thank you, Luciano. Let's.
Can you guys see my screen on the presentation on the WebEx?
Yep.
Good. So thanks for having me. I want to talk a little bit about Elyra, but before that, let me just, I think if you guys are doing AI, are doing some sort of like data science, you probably heard about the Jupyter and the Jupyter project. Jupyter consists of like multiple components, but the most kind of like the most used one is sort of like the notebook, where you can have code, you can have documentation, presentations, data plotting, all of those kinds together, and you can execute those interactively. And basically, it's the de facto standard when you talk to folks that are doing any kind of like data science, AI, and interactive development in general. It's also very well adopted into the industry. So like if you are familiar with that, and then you go to the industry one way or another, either on cloud vendors or just enterprise, you will see that. So the project that we are working on, it's called Elyra. Elyra basically builds on top of Jupyter Lab, which is the new interface, and make it very much aligned with kind of like your day-to-day AI tasks. One of the things that we have the most kind of like used feature in Elyra is kind of like the pipeline editor. The pipeline editor allows you to start putting together multiple notebooks. I mean, usually when we are doing AI, when we are doing data science, we decompose those into multiple tasks. You have some sort of like ETL. You then kind of like start working on your model. You want to then train and publish all the way kind of like to complete your life cycle for your model development. And we help with that. We make it much easier in terms of like hiding all the DevOps sort of tasks there. You can just start dragging and drop your assets that you already have working, putting properties that enable you to mix and match the environment that you have. So like if you have a notebook that needs to run on a TensorFlow type of environment, you can select that as the underlying image and even configure the environment with environment variables and other things, and then specify, okay, these are the outputs that needs to go to the next nodes, and everything kind of like gets done for you in terms of your pipeline. We also bring a lot of other things such as Python editor and execution from within the pipelines, code snippets that enables you to sort of like reuse pieces of code that are very common. You can configure those, and it then discover those based on search or tags, all very easily. And then once you find the one that you want to reuse, you can just start dragging and drop or just putting there. We just announced our release 2.0 today for Elyra. And with that, we bring a couple of new features on top of the ones I just told you guys. So support for JupyterLab 3.0. We have language server protocol support that gives you a lot of like better development capabilities that you also see in regular IDs. We bring that to Jupyter notebooks as well, and the ability to integrate with Kubeflow pipelines, both with an Argo and a Tecton backend. For those that are interested on how these kind of like map to products or services at IBM, just like to have a correlation of like what is on open source and how IBM does make money with that. So in Red Hat, Elyra is part of like the ODH and on top of OpenShift. Also, when you go to products like Watson Studio or Cloud Pak for Data, you're just gonna see Elyra there. But really what I think we are here is to talk to you guys and see like some project ideas that you guys can come and help and can come and participate. I have some ideas here. We also have a lot more in our issues where we tag those as good first issue or help wanted. Help wanted is usually a little bit bigger. Good first issue, it's probably something just to get you started, but there are some there that are not necessarily small, that can take you busy for a month or so. But things that we were thinking about is, replicate a lot of the things that we have done with Python, which is the most popular language or script used to R as well, which I think is currently probably the second one. With that, we might have help of Gabriela. Gabriela is the founder of R Ladies and AI Inclusive. She is part of my team, and she is an expert and very good on R, so she can probably help mentoring on that task. We already talked to her on some ideas that we have. But we also have things like a better integration with S3 for kind of like a browsing and moving things from the executed pipelines into your workspace. Integrate JupyterLab 3.0 has support for debugging, but not all the kernels have that, so we can work on that. Also bring better integration for SQL and data sources extensions, and much more here. We are also, if you are a user of JupyterLab, you look into Elyra or look into a JupyterLab, and you think there are gaps that are interesting to work on, that is probably something that we can work on with you as well. Also, I put here some examples of use cases that actually uses Elyra capabilities, but are basically focusing on a specific use case. And we have one that does a lot of data analytics with COVID notebooks, another one with NOAA weather data to come up with insights from those, but focusing on some of the capabilities that are exposed in Elyra. That helps us in general to make things basically more robust and things like that. If you guys want to know more about Elyra, please feel free to go to our GitHub, all the resources here, or ask questions. I'm available in Gitter, I'm available in email, GitHub, and things like that. So feel free to contact me if you have any questions or anything else. Thank you.
Excellent.
I think it's time for Beat now.
Sure. I'm not sure what order I had them in, but I'm not sure that it actually matters. But this sounds right.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Hello, my name is Beat Büser. I'm one of the maintainers of the Adversarial Robustness Toolbox, which is an open source library for adversarial machine learning. And well, give you a pitch on ART. So ART aims to cover the four different types of adversarial threats against machine learning. It covers evasion, poisoning, extraction, and inference. And these four threats are visualized here on the right-hand side against the machine learning pipeline and its training data. In the action of evasion, an adversary tries to modify the input data to a trained machine learning model in a way to change its behavior, either to lead to misclassifications or targeted changes in classification. Poisoning is the modification of training data that later a machine learning model is trained on would introduce a backdoor into that model that the adversary later can explore. Extraction is stealing the model through queries and inputs, and then train a copy of that model. And the fourth threat that has been most recently added is inference, which is kind of using predictions of a model to learn something about the training data, which is especially of interest for researchers if the training data contains private data. These are definitely real-world threats. So we see an increasing number of vulnerability nodes and reports of these attacks really being executed in the real world. And what we also see in the recent weeks and months, that combinations of these attacks are even more successful. So, for example, first stealing a model with an extraction attack and then using it to stage an evasion attack, for example, to bypass an email protection system. So the Adversarial Robustness Toolbox is described as a Python library for machine learning security. We are on GitHub in the Trusted AI workspace. Our aim is kind of to provide tools to developers and researchers to evaluate and defend machine learning models and applications. We aim to support all tasks in machine learning. So we started with classification. We do now object detection, automated speech recognition, and we aim to go towards natural language processing. We are really trying to support all the popular machine learning frameworks like TensorFlow, Keras, PyTorch, MXNet, Scikit-learn, and all the gradient boosted decision tree libraries. And we also can handle all the data types. Like we started with images, but then went quickly to tables, audio, video, and multimodal data, which is the most recent extension. So a quick look on the roadmap for ART. ART started with its initial release in April 2018 with evasion attacks on image classification, which is kind of the task that started the whole field of adversarial machine learning, or let's say made it more popular. There was adversarial machine learning before that, but that's where we really got a lot of attention by fooling neural networks in image classification. And then subsequent releases added data poisoning and non-deep learning models and extraction attacks. And we are now currently in ART 1.5, and we are now in the midst of working towards the next release of ART 1.6, which has the main focus on improving physical world threat models, including adversarial patches and making them more effective and more realistic. And the next release after that will be ART 1.7, which is targeted for June of this year, where we try to support attacks on models with categorical and or ordinal inputs. We also try to extend support for what's called expectation of a transformation, which makes attacks much more stronger, and also to add support for evaluation of robustness against natural corruptions and noise. So these are kind of the three main topics for the 1.7 release. And in general, we always aim to add state-of-the-art attacks and defenses, which kind of are released in a very rapid cycle. At each conference, there are new attacks and defenses being published. And we also aim to develop new notebooks that demonstrate the use cases, especially in cybersecurity and forensics. And also we aim to develop support for new tasks like regression or reinforcement learning, and also continuous improvement of performance and usability. But also new goals are also always very welcome. So if you have a great idea to contribute something, we're very open to that. With that, I'm at the end of my pitch, and thank you very much.
Very good. I think we have Egeria or something. I'm sorry. I have to get my slides up.
Can you see them okay?
They're beautiful. IBM does good backgrounds.
This actually comes from the Linux Foundation, actually.
They do too.
Uh-huh. Yes. Now, is that showing? That looks like that's showing the proper display, I think. So, okay, so let's talk a little bit about Egeria, which is a project that's 3 years old. It's always been an open source project, so it's not a big lump of code that's been contributed by IBM. It's been developed fully in the open between IBM, a bank called ING, and SAS, or SAS Institute, you might know it as, which is an analytics company. And it's all about making sure that the data that you're using for your AI models or for reporting or for any task is known. We know where it's come from, we know what it's about, all the conditions were that data was created. So if we take an example of a digital photograph, you probably don't remember a time before digital photographs where we used to use film and then the photograph would be processed and there would be no capture of the type of processing, the chemicals used, even the conditions of the camera when the photograph was taken. And we all had to write on the back of the photograph where it was, who was in it, when we took it, and most of us didn't. And the reality is that we all have boxes of photographs that we don't really know exactly whether that was Auntie Flo's 85th birthday or something different. Whereas now, when we take a photograph on our phones, in fact, any digital camera, information about the location, the settings of the camera, the light conditions, so many things and date time are captured automatically and they're embedded in the photograph itself. Now, apart from the fact it's really useful to know, just from a sort of user of photographs, when that picture was taken, from an analytical perspective, the fact that we have so much information in the photograph itself, it means that we can take photographs from different cameras taken at different times and study a location. Or we can look at images taken from different angles and create better models for doing visual recognition, etc. So our ability to understand images has been so greatly improved by the fact that this metadata is captured automatically and embedded. Now, if that was true of all data, we would be in a really good place. The problem is that most large organizations have spent 40 years building one system on another and connecting it together and sharing data and building another and building another. So they have thousands of systems that are connected. This is a real diagram of a single banking process that ING had when they first started. It's a lot tidier now, sorry about that. But this is the complexity. Now you imagine you get a data file out of that complexity. It's like, well, what does that actually mean? It looks like it's information about a customer and how much money they spent, but I'm not really sure, whether there's tax involved or whatever. So the real challenge for most companies is really knowing where their data, well, finding it in the first place, but knowing where it's come from, what it means, and so data scientists in business can spend 80% of their time finding data, trying to understand it. And it's easy enough to make a mistake when it's a detective job to actually try and find out what that data means. So the job of Egeria is to try and do what we've done for digital photography for all data. So it's to get that capture of metadata into all the applications and then keep it with the data as it's moved around. And sometimes there are open standards to make this easy, but for most data there is nothing. So we have to basically augment the current systems with the Egeria content. So we've built a system that is highly distributed. You put Egeria everywhere, and then it talks to itself across the network, sharing and linking this knowledge across the organization. And the benefit is that different professionals using different tools actually can share their knowledge of data in this sort of big knowledge sharing network. And behind the scenes, we have effectively built a distributed virtual graph. So we do a lot of work with graphs and graph queries so that we're federating graphs across the network. Our systems run in Kubernetes, highly parallelized with multi-tenancy support. So it's designed for hybrid cloud environments. But also a lot of what's happening in the background is hidden. So in order to allow people to learn about the different things that you can do, we've built a suite of labs built on Jupyter notebooks, Jupyter again, written in Python, that allows you to explore different aspects of what Egeria can provide and sort of work with different data and look at the value and processing of both metadata and data together. So thinking about your skills and the sorts of things that you might be able to achieve during the project time, we sort of came up with a list of ideas. These are things that you could take, adapt, and build, but there's quite a few different things you can do in the Jupyter notebook environment with Python, let's say working with different types of data and synthesizing it. If you want to go a little bit more into sort of building system design, there are a number of data catalogs we'd like to bring into the Egeria ecosystem, one based on Python, one based on Java, depending on the skills you're interested in. Or if you want to do something sort of in the design space, we have a choreographing engine for different governance processing. And there's we need a modeling tool. So if that's something that interests you, we also have that as a project. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of background on Egeria and some ideas for your projects. Thank you.
That was great. I think Daniel Crook is next, right?
Yes. Getting my slides up. All right. How's that look?
Beautiful.
Wonderful. Nice and blue. Okay. All right. So I'm Daniel Crook. I lead our Call for Code program. So I'm going to talk about actually a larger ecosystem of many different projects within that might be of interest for you to contribute to. Before I get that, just to give you the context. So we just completed 3 full years of the Call for Code global competition. It's a hackathon around the world. It's a multi-month event with a couple of on-campus events, other hackathons. And in fact, we did a couple events at RPI. I was at the one in 2018 where we saw some really cool stuff come out of that project. We've focused on things like how do you prepare for and mitigate natural disasters? How do you take on climate change? How do you address the social and business impacts of the pandemic? And most recently, how do you use technology in a positive way to address racial injustice? So actually one of the projects in 2018 for natural disasters, I remember very vividly from RPI, it was how do you take satellite images of a particular area prone to wildfires and look at the vegetation, its coloring versus normal, and determine whether it's at risk of burning and therefore predict the path of wildfire. So I'm very happy to be talking to you again about the program and some of the great progress that's happened since on the projects that came out of it. But in any case, we are launching again in later this spring, so you'll get some more details on that later. But it is a Tech for Good competition, and what sets it apart from other Tech for Good competitions that you may have taken part in, other hackathons, is what goes into it, the promising applications. We as IBM, together with the Linux Foundation and other partners, commit to make sure those projects live on as sustainable open source projects so that they can make a difference around the world, that the supporting organization that created them can continue to work on them with support, and also folks can take advantage of it in an open source model. And so we're really proud that the top teams have essentially an incubator that goes behind them. So if you look on the far left, that's actually a global challenge or a spot challenge like Susan's leading around wildfires and data science right now. as ideas come in, we work with them to work on an iterative process, an agile process to improve those projects, improve the security and scalability, go out in the field and actually test them, and help connect them with partners that can help, whether it's a startup, a set of students, an enterprise, an NGO, make sure these projects are part of their day-to-day mission and they can make them better. So we have, now that we've completed 3 years of the global competition and also have done other events at universities and through other partnerships, we've got a bunch of different projects that might be of interest to you to take part in our platform, in our inventory. And they cover the gamut from covering issues like natural disasters, emergency networks like Project OWL, the first-year winner, IoT devices with analytics that can help wildfire firefighters make better decisions about, or their commanders can make better decisions about who's being deployed in the field at what time, to helping small farmers make better decisions about what to plant and when, based on weather data, satellite data, and other information that they may not have access to. And we also have various projects around racial justice. So providing information to compare the sentences, for example, given to different people in the community and empower representation to use that to show that a particular sentence may not be fair. Also empowering voters to know about where local polling stations are, understanding the impact of legislation, proposed legislation, what that sort of legislation has had as an impact on communities in the past. So we've got several projects there and a couple more announcing this month during Black History Month. And we have a few other interesting projects for earthquake early warning, for improving building quality, determining whether a wall is created well or rebar is formed into the right shape to create the right bond with concrete. From things like helping folks get together and do virtual concerts without the lag that you would have in a WebEx or a Cisco. It's a way for bands to continue to collaborate on music during social distancing. So lots of different projects that cover different domains that might be of interest for you in kind of tech for good in general. And they cover things from data science through front-end development with React, React Native, React Mobile, IoT, serverless computing with functions, artificial intelligence, visual recognition, mobile development. So there's lots of things to look at, choose from the selection that are out there. Some of these projects are a little more mature. For example, Agrily is fairly new versus Project OWL is been out there now for a couple of years as an open source community. So as you look at them, take a look and see where you might be interested. You might be able to make an outsized influence on a young project versus one that's more mature, which may be easier to get into to fix a typo or you just generally introduce yourself to the community. So they all have various degrees of where they're ready for contributions. We also, as IBM, have a bunch of developer resources for them where folks can learn about the tech behind them if you just want to learn about IoT, or if you're interested in IoT, for example, learning how to go through a tutorial for a particular project and then understanding the contribution guidelines to them. So plenty of resources there. That includes the global call for code projects as well as the new call for code for racial justice ones as well. And if you dive into each of the repos, many of them are tagged either good first issue or maybe even Hacktoberfest, which was an older tag, or help wanted. These are ones where you can really start to explore the project. Even if you don't want to use that one long term as what you focus on here, it's a great way to just make a contribution, get familiar with GitHub, learn about issues, learn about pull requests, and get involved in the communities, learning about these important issues and how you might make a difference with technology. So we really hope you consider some of these projects, and that's my time.
And thank you, Daniel. And I think the next final person is Brad and Sadev.
Yep. It's Suzanne. Hello, Professor Reyes and everyone. Let me share my screen. All right. Can you see,
Yep.
see my screen?
Yep.
All right. Sounds good. So yeah, my name is Sadir Zala. I'm a senior open source developer at IBM working on Kubernetes, and we have Dr. Brad Topol, who leads Kubernetes and cloud native open source development at IBM. So I'm gonna cover a few things. I'm not gonna deep dive into what Kubernetes is, but my main focus will be to provide a walkthrough of a lot of good material that we have created, Brad, myself, and our team, different maintainers in the Kubernetes area has created. Something that that you can use to deploy applications on Kubernetes and to contribute to the Kubernetes project. Alrighty, Brad, please feel free to add anything while I'm presenting. But let me start with a little overview of Kubernetes. So you might already heard about Kubernetes. It's an open source platform for running, scaling, and managing your containerized applications, right? So here is you see the diagram. It's a architectural view of Kubernetes cluster. So how Kubernetes cluster is how you use the Kubernetes. So in the architectural view, once you have a cluster running, basically there are two main parts. Kubernetes worker nodes, as you see on your right side, right there, it's a 3-node cluster, and there's a control plan which basically manages the working nodes and the application running there. As is it's a pretty simple architecture, but you see there are many components. And like I said, we don't have time to go deep dive with the components, but these components, they will help you once you go through the material that I'll be showing in the next slide, right? But real quick here, like I said, the worker nodes, these 3 nodes, that's where the application run, and the control plan, you see different components like API server. That's what you as an user of Kubernetes you interact with. So you send APIs to API server, and then API server communicates with the different components, right? So for example, etcd, which is a project of its own, but it's a critical component of Kubernetes. So that's where the API server stores all the cluster state data. So that's a key value data store for Kubernetes. There's a kube scheduler. It's pretty smart scheduler. It will make sure that it runs your container using the resources in your cluster, right, on the worker nodes. And there's a controller manager which has different manager out there, for different tasks, like for scaling, for example, if you want to scale your application, then there's a controller manager called replica set. Or there's one more thing, cloud control manager. That's basically another component that interacts with the cloud providers. So IBM Cloud, for example, or different cloud provider running Kubernetes into their cloud. They have specific loops that gets invoked. You probably don't need to. You probably will not use it. As if you're a new contributor. But so, like I said, this is 3-node cluster, but, in real life, in productions, this cluster size may be huge, right? It may be like, 3,000 node cluster, 5,000 node cluster. But you don't have to worry, to play with Kubernetes. It's actually very easy to, create a Kubernetes cluster. You can create a single node cluster just using your laptop. And actually for the development purpose, that's good enough. So how do you create, a cluster? There are many different ways. At IBM, we have a IBM Cloud Kubernetes service that's managed service. So that means, the everything like configuration details and creating the cluster and managing it is done by IBM. There's a free trial if you're interested. Create your cluster and play with it. To sort of learn more, right? is Red Hat OpenShift. OpenShift is a Kubernetes-based platform. You might heard about OpenShift, I guess. But the great thing with OpenShift is you can actually create cluster on your laptop, right, using OpenShift, or you can even create in the cloud. There are different ways you can use OpenShift. I have a link in the next slide. I'll show you. But if you don't want to use, any sort of platform from cloud provider companies, then there is easier ways to play with Kubernetes, like using KubeADM or Minikube. That those are provided by the community. Like I said, in the resources in next slide, I'll touch base with them. But they actually are pretty straightforward. You can easily create a cluster on your laptop, on a virtual machine running on your laptop, or somewhere in the lab, right? Alrighty, so Kubernetes, like I said, it's an open source platform, or you can consider as an operating system for the cloud running containers applications. But Kubernetes it's also a project, right? So there's a big Kubernetes community out there. Like a year back, CNCF, the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, had a report, and according to that, there are like more than 25,000 contributors contributing in different ways to Kubernetes project, from more than 1,500 companies and many individual contributors, right? There are more than 200 Kubernetes meetup groups in several different countries. I have a link in the next slide that shows if you have a Kubernetes meetup by CNCF, right, running in your areas, right. And if there is one, I would highly recommend to go and participate, because meetups are a great place to learn. So the community, real quick, you want to know more about community if you want to contribute to the project, right? It's a great community, very friendly. And the way the community works is through special interest groups and working groups, user groups, and committees. But the special interest groups, that's how the project is primarily organized. There is special interest groups, or SIG, for different areas like network, testing, storage, scheduling. There are about 30 or so special interest groups. I have a link in the next slide. You may not need to worry too much about working groups, user groups right now, because they are mainly, for the discussion purpose, for the improvements in the project. And there are committees like steering committees and security committees, other committees for governing the project. There are many different channels out there to communicate with the Kubernetes community. GitHub, of course, that's the one big one. There are different repositories for Kubernetes project, and you can interact with folks through the discussions as part of the issues or pull requests. All these special interest groups has weekly or bi-weekly meetings. Great place to learn about particular areas of Kubernetes. And there are things like mailing lists, Slack, office hours, Twitter. Twitter has the Kubernetes handler where the community, the contributors, they put all kind of updates there. And there are conferences, KubeCons, 3 major conferences every year, one in North America, one in Europe, and typically one in China. And there are Cube forums, different in different countries. Anyway, so this one, right? I will let you explore a lot of this by yourself. But this, this gives you an idea of some of the good links out here, learning resources, right? At the top, under the github.com/Kubernetes, there are several different repositories. Once you go there, you will see many different repositories representing different areas of Kubernetes. There's a link here for this special interest group list, and every SIG has a README file and the different sub projects where the code is for different areas, so you can explore that. Kubernetes.io is a great place to learn about Kubernetes. Under events, you see a couple different links. The first one is about KubeCon and other events organized by Linux Foundation. The second link is the meetup.com one, right, where you, like I said, you can see all the meetups in various part of the world by CNCF. Like I said, you can find one in your area as well. There's a kubernetes.slack.com, and there are several different channels there for different areas, and for user and for developers. Let me see if I can share this with you here. But so the one I mentioned, they are there by the community. But the IBM team, like I said, Brad, myself, and other maintainers in different areas of Kubernetes and other related CNC project, they have created a lot of good stuff. So can you see the page?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So real quick, these are this is like a workshop material, right? You can see the content here. You get little introduction on containers, virtual machines, and containers, kind of what's the difference there. But as you deep dive, here you got to know about more on the Kubernetes architectural, and other things, right? What's the workflow for the deployment of applications and whatnot, right? But then also, there are labs, which, hey, if you're interested, these are easy to follow. Honestly, as a new user, it will take some learning curve, but I think the team has done a really good job. But these labs, you can use it. You can show Professor ways, hey, I have running Kubernetes app on Kubernetes cluster, right? So the tutorial uses app called Guestbook, so it's provided, and then it shows you different ways of setting up your environment. How do you create Kubernetes cluster? Like I said, the lab uses IBM Cloud Kubernetes Service, the IKS I mentioned earlier. But you can use IKS, you can use OpenShift, or you can use like Minikube or other tools to create cluster. The steps to deploy applications, they work everywhere. They're standard Kubernetes steps. So and then there is a GitHub repo as well for the lab and other resources. All right, so that's for the lab. The second thing, this is really, yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, alrighty. So the other link here, this is really good. You can see all kind of videos we recently created, right? Like Brad has given overview of open source in general. He has really good deep dive on the different how Kubernetes work, right? And what are the different areas there. Like I had videos more focused on contributors. There's a video on Git and GitHub to learn Git and GitHub basic skills. Really good video out there. There is one for setting up the environment, right? And like a lot of good stuff. Walkthrough on the repo, the pull request workflow in Kubernetes, how the test-driven development works. A little bit more on the specific on the test infra side. If you are interested, going forward to be a more serious Kubernetes developer, then there are different videos on how to increase your eminence. I have given one on like a live pull request. So these are all live sessions we recorded. And then down the road, if you want to know really if you want to deep dive into different areas like scheduler, right? There's a walkthrough for scheduler part 1, part 2. There's videos on networking, how networking works in Kubernetes, the code walkthrough, same thing for storage and operators. So a lot of good stuff there. And I also put the Helm 101 link here. I didn't mention Helm, and I'm not going there much, but I thought worth I put it here. It's a package manager for Kubernetes, so it makes it easier to deploy applications on Kubernetes if you don't want to use the Kubernetes client itself. You can learn more about the Helm 101, it's same thing. Like I said, there are different, introduction of Helm, and there's the things you write, the GitHub repo. Okay. Also, I have provided the link for IBM Cloud Commissaries and their OpenShift, where I was just saying that there are multiple ways you can just do it for free on your computer or in other ways with the Red Hat OpenShift. Same thing with the IKS, the Commissaries. That's pretty much it. Let me start sharing my screen.
Yeah, Sada, can I just say a couple words?
Yeah, absolutely, Brad. Yeah, please.
Yep. Hey, everyone. This is Brad Topol. So the key thing about Kubernetes that might be of interest is, if you have any interest in cluster computing or high performance computing or distributed computing, so many of those principles have been worked into Kubernetes. It's a great platform for all of those. I actually started working in cluster computing 25 years ago. I collaborated with another grad student. His name was Chris Carruthers. You probably all know him as Dr. Carruthers. I believe he runs your high performance simulation center there. He's an old friend. Say hi. But the things that Dr. Carruthers and I worked on when we were both getting our PhD at Georgia Tech, those principles, which started so simple with simple type of cluster platforms, PVM, and moving on to going to wide scale grid computing, all of those principles over the 25 years have culminated into the Kubernetes project in one way or another, whether it's distributed consensus or scalability or robustness. So of interest in your area, that's a good platform to go pick. You'll get to see a lot of the things that have been learned over those past 25 years that have played a role there. And say hi to Dr. Carruthers for me. I haven't talked to him in a while.
Well, thank you, everybody, and thank you so much, everyone at RPI at RCOS for inviting us to. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentations. I just want to confirm you are going to have some people available on Friday for pairing discussions. Is that?
I'll try to do that. Yes, I'll see what I can who I can get. Yep.
So we will have some rooms in Discord for our IBM friends.
Excellent.
IBM's been a great, I was here as a graduate student when Dr. Carruthers came here. I was older than him, but I was a graduate student. So I remember him coming, and I remember his first Linux cluster lab. He's progressed, but IBM has always been a really great supporter of RPI, and hackathon was a great opportunity. We had Susan and Dennis were here. I wasn't here for the full 24 hours, but I believe Dennis was and Susan were. So that was really great. We had good chocolate, I think, that was handed out at the meeting. So these are all great projects. They'll be here to discuss them further if you're looking for a project. This is one of the places where you can see projects that are actually being used and actually getting access in the wild, as it were. So we're a little bit of a tamed ecosystem here. That would put you right out in the wild world. So thank you very much. We do appreciate all of your projects going on, and we will talk to you again on Friday, I guess is the.
Do we just join the Discord? Is that what we do?
Yeah, if you need, I can send you an invitation. But what we'll do is we'll set up rooms for projects, and we'll get you into. We don't have them set up right now, but we'll get you into the rooms.
Okay. So if there are any additional people or different people for a project, I'll give you their email addresses. Is that what you'll need for the?
Yeah, that'll work out great. And we will see you. We'll see you on Friday. I hope that we get some good. We hope that we get some good takers from this. Certainly, there's enough going on at IBM to warrant some open source projects going on. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. We'll drop now. Well, I'll certainly be dropping now. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Goodbye. Excellent. All right. I'm going to try to get us caught up. Frank?
Okay, perfect. Well, those were great. And now we have just a handful of RCOS member projects. So a really brief overview of what we expect. We have external projects. Those pitches we tend to let go on for much longer, since they usually have a whole lot of history behind them and all that. But for our pitches here, please just give a brief explanation like you saw in, what was it, last week's pitches by older RCOS projects. And make sure to hit who you are, what your project's about, what kind of people you're looking for, and please have contact information. And again, feel free to post your pitches afterwards in the pitches channel on the Discord. Next slide. So the order for today is BrokerBot, then Clip, then I want to say Simi, maybe it's SIMIE, and Graph. And Graph has a recorded pitch, so we just have the video as the last slide. So we've added all the slides, so please keep your pitches to about a minute, though there aren't many, so it's okay if you go a little bit above that. Is BrokerBot ready?
Yes, I am.
Great, go ahead.
All right.
You need theme music.
That would be ideal. If only I had some. All right, so this is BrokerBot. BrokerBot is an algorithmic trading bot made to continually analyze market conditions and make profitable trades by automating cutting-edge trading strategies such as mean reversion, Fibonacci retracement, statistical arbitrage, and eventually one of our own. BrokerBot is going to be written in Python and make use of some key financial computing libraries, such as the Pandas data reader, the Yahoo Finance API, NumPy, the Alpacas API, and Selenium for scripting. The program has several active components that need developers, such as backtesting, implementation of trading strategies, order splicing, user interfacing, multi-threading, and task running. Our short-term goals are to implement the mean reversion strategy, create a backtester, create a user interface, deploy on the stock market game so we can train our algorithm with fake money. Oh, you cannot see the slide.
Oh, Professor, could you re-lock it to the presentation?
Yeah,
we can
that
hear you,
would be
Professor.
unfortunate. Not gonna lie.
Are you there, Professor?
I'm working, but I was muted, so
Okay.
it must have just been locked for me. Is that better now?
No, I don't think so.
Looks like it's back now.
Okay. Is it good? All right. So let me keep going. So our goals, our short-term goals. No, now it's gone. Awesome.
It just disappeared, Professor.
Okay, hold on. This should be locked
Okay, yeah.
on my video, right? You guys can see this now?
Yes, when
Okay.
we're in a stage layout or
Good?
seems so.
Okay.
Okay.
You guys
Seems
can
good.
double click on me too, and that if it messes up, double click on me and it should expand it again. Go ahead.
All right. So like I said, BrokerBot is an algorithmic trading bot made to continually analyze market conditions and make profitable trades using cutting-edge trading strategies. It's going to be written in Python. We're going to make use of some key financial computing libraries such as the Pandas data reader, Yahoo Finance API, NumPy, the Alpacas API, and Selenium for scripting. We have some. We have a lot of active components on it, such as backtesting, order splicing, user interfacing, multi-threading, and task running. Our short-term goals are to implement the mean reversion strategy, which is kind of the hello world of the trading world. Implement a back tester so that we can use previous financial data to train our algorithm. Deploy on the stock market, which is, the stock market game, which is a website and a game designed to use fake money that reflects the actual stock market, so we can easily train our AI, or not our AI, our algorithm to match the conditions of an ever-changing stock market. We're hopefully to achieve a positive net profit per trade and eventually establish a passive income for all users of the bot. So what we're looking for are 3 to 5 members, and we're open to developers of all skill levels. However, we prefer those with experience in Python, GUI development, scripting, and those with trading and investing experience. Not necessarily just dumping your life savings and YOLOing GME, but people who actually implement true and real strategies. But if you have an interest in algorithm development, trading strategies, or investing, consider joining BrokerBot and contact me at the email in chat that I just posted.
Awesome.
Great. Thank you very much.
How long has this project been going on?
I established this. I started doing this. It was not an immediate response to the GME stuff. I started using it over the winter break. So when I first started fleshing it out and thinking about it. So the great surge into investing that just came from GME and all that craziness was welcomed, but this has been going on before that, and I plan to keep it going after.
We've had a couple of projects over the years that have been on this topic, so I think one of the things that might help you out is to be to take a look at what's already been done.
Yeah. I was planning on doing that. I was actually planning on trying to meet with the computational finance professor, which is Professor Magdalon. I can't really pronounce his last name, but I was planning on meeting with him personally and trying to see if he could consult us a little bit and help us to flesh it out a bit more and use the most cutting edge stuff rather than implementing things that have maybe already been done or may not be as efficient as current practices.
Yep, that's it will help. So that's kind of cool. I am trying to make sure that the layout is fixed for everybody going forward.
Looks like it's working at the moment.
Okay.
There are 2 of you now.
There are 2 of me now, so that I can see what you guys see.
Great.
All right. So nice BrokerBot. Are we on to the?
Yes. Next up is Clip.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right. I'm just waiting on the slides.
Next slide.
It should. There it goes. It's just a little bit
There
of a
you go.
delay.
All right. How's everyone doing? My name's Eugene. I'm a CS major, and I'm here at Clip Pitch, which is a social media platform for gaming. Beep. Beep.
It's just a little bit of a delay right now for some reason.
I got you. Okay, no worries. All right. I'm going to try to keep this short, but in general, there's a lot of kind of functionalities and core ideas that anyone can work on, right? And since we're still in the kind of beginning stages of this, or there's a lot of kind of new functionalities I want to add, right? Joining on this project means you'll be having a lot of contribution to the overall project. And you can kind of read through some of the core functionalities, AI, optimization, compression, the backend database management, right? So if any of these really interest you, which, I mean, to be fair, is kind of a large chunk of the development space, right? Really consider joining the project. The tech stack is Flutter, so if you have experience, or at least some experience with maybe React Native, Flutter, or some kind of app development, that'd be great. Otherwise, Flutter is pretty quick to pick up, not such a huge learning curve, and then there's also It's written, the backend's written in Node with servers and Mongo and Express. Well, Mongo Express and AWS is the backend. So really a ton of different things that you can work on in this project. And if you're interested, just let me know and you can, yeah, next slide. Who we're trying to look for, again, if you're a complete beginner, that's fine. You'll have to more or less get caught up with Flutter, maybe some Node.js to get you started on the front end or back end. But again, there's so many different functionalities and the kind of mini project within this whole global case of a project that you can more or less get started anywhere. So yeah, preferred if you have some experience in Flutter or JavaScript, but that's it. So if you're interested, you can contact me in any of those direct or just on the Discord. I'm sure we'll have a page there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice.
And next up is a simulated mind's eye.
Hi everybody. My name is Abraham Sanders. This project is SIMI, a simulated mind's eye. So essentially, if you ever had a conversation with a chatbot, and some of the very popular chatbots are like Alexa and Google Assistant, or some of the less popular chatbots that are more based on deep learning, you'll notice that these chatbots attempt to model human conversation and try to come up with an appropriate response for what's been said so far in the dialogue. But what these chatbots don't do is, and what humans do when they have a conversation, is they try to visualize in their mind's eye what's actually going on in the scenario behind the conversation. As you can see in this little scenario up here, somebody is having a little bit of a faux pas moment when their new supervisor is being introduced to them. And a chatbot with just this conversational context by itself, really doesn't have enough information to really get at what might be actually going on in that scenario. So the idea here is to use books. So there was recently a new dialogue data set based on the Gutenberg project, where dialogues were extracted from many open domain books. And the idea here is to extend that to get narratives that align with the dialogues. So narratives in these books that are describing the scenario going on when people are speaking in the books. And then to train a model to attempt to map conversations with the story that might be going on behind them in the scenario. So that's the aim here. It would be basically a translation system, dialogue to narrative. And the experiment is to see whether machines can effectively learn to do this kind of imagination based on a conversation. The stack is Python, either TensorFlow or PyTorch. There are many libraries for natural language processing that support both of these. Flask and HTML.js with really any reasonable UX framework. I'm not picky on that. And the plan is, like I was saying, to develop a tool for generating dialogue narrative datasets from books by extending the Gutenberg dialogue dataset, to fine-tune a language model such as GPT-2 to actually perform this translation, and then to build a slick front end to play with the system. So if you're excited about dialogue, translation, language modeling, or general NLP, certainly give me a shout out, Abraham Sanders. And if preferred experience, it would either be on the Python plus ML and NLP side, or if you're really into web development and you'd want to work on the front end side of that, that's really nice to have too. So that's it. Thank you very much.
Very nice.
Very cool. Love to see some samples of that at some point at the end. Okay, and last but not least is Graph. So hopefully the video works well and the sound sounds clear.
Hi everyone, this is my project, Graph, a simple graph editing application designed primarily for web and desktop. Our primary goal is to build an intuitive, open source graph editor with the ability to export graphs as images. Additional features we'd like to work towards include running essential graph algorithms, allowing several collaborators on the same workspace, and potentially even a scripting interface for advanced users. Given our user-friendly focus, we're designing Graph as a web application with Vue and JavaScript, supporting further platforms with Electron. Right now, we have a dedicated team specializing in backend, so we're looking for front-end developers. Contact me on Discord or at the shown email address if you're interested or have questions.
Okay, I can't tell if the audio came through on that one, did it?
It did not. No.
It did not. All right. Try it again.
Hi everyone, this is my project, Graph, a simple graph editing application designed primarily for web and desktop. Our primary goal is to build an intuitive, open source graph editor with the ability to export graphs as images. Additional features we'd like to work towards include running essential graph algorithms, allowing several collaborators on the same workspace, and potentially even a scripting interface for advanced users. Given our user-friendly focus, we're designing Graph as a web application with Vue and JavaScript, supporting further platforms with Electron. Right now, we have a dedicated team specializing in backend, so we're looking for front-end developers. Contact me on Discord or at the shown email address if you're interested or have questions.
Okay, did it come through that time?
Oh, it was pretty low, but
Pretty low, but
a little bit. I wouldn't say enough for everyone to hear.
all right. You know what? We'll do it one more time, and this time I will listen to it and tell you what he's saying.
Sure.
Hi everyone.
Hi
This
everyone.
Is my project,
This is
Graph.
my project.
A simple
Graph.
graph editing
A
application
simple graph
designed
editing
primarily for
application
web and desktop.
designed primarily
Our primary
for web and
goal is to
desktop.
build an
Our
intuitive,
primary goal
open
is
source
to
graph
build
editor
an intuitive,
with the ability to export
open
graphs
source
as images.
graph algorithm
Additional
with the
features we'd
ability
like
to export graph images.
to work towards include running essential graph algorithms, allowing
We would like to work towards running essential graph
several
algorithms,
collaborators on the same workspace,
several
and potentially
collaborators on
even
the
a
same
scripting interface
workspace,
for advanced users.
and potentially a scripting
Given our
interface for advanced
user-friendly
users.
focus, we're designing
Given
Graph
our
as a web
user-friendly
application with
focus,
Vue
we
and
are
JavaScript.
developing Graph as a web with a web focus and in JavaScript,
supporting further platforms with Electron.
supporting
Right
further
now, we have a
platforms with
dedicated
Electron.
team specializing
Right
in
now,
backend,
we have a
so we're looking for
dedicated
front-end
team
developers.
specializing in
Contact me
backend,
on
so we're
Discord or at the shown email
looking
address
for
if you're
front-end
interested or have
developers.
questions.
If you have questions, please contact him on Discord or I missed that last word. But he's out there on Discord. Hopefully we will, please reach out to him and see if you can start up a conversation.
That works.
Okay.
And everyone can rewatch the video on the slides. These slides are posted in the slides channel.
Yeah, and it by the way, it works very well with. I'm hearing it very very nicely. He's got
Yeah, it's a great video. He did.
a wonderful speaking voice.
Yes. Okay, great. And that was our last project pitch.
All right.
Next.
Oh, it's going to play again.
Oh, yeah.
Hi everyone, this is my project, Graph, a simple graph editing application designed primarily for web and desktop. Our primary goal is
I'm
to
not
build
sure I
an
get out of
intuitive, open source graph editor with the ability to
There we go. Okay.
Okay, on to Hunter.
All right, so things that are happening next class. All right, so there are a couple more external projects that will be pitching on Friday. That should probably wrap up all the pitches. And then after that, we move into project pairing. So that will probably also be Friday. So pretty much after those pitches are done, we move over to the Discord server. If it's anything like last semester, then there'll be a bunch of channels for each group. And then you get voice and text channel. And then you can basically talk to the project leads and the other group members for each project, and then try to see if you're a good fit for the project. And if so, then there you go, you've found your project. And then you can fill out the project form that lets us know what project you're on.
And one very important reminder for project leads. If you are on this call and you are running a project in RCOS this semester, you are not going to be recognized unless you submit that Google form that is pasted in the due dates channel. This is whether or not you are pitching or you pitched, whether or not you already have a team or do not. We're in the middle of switching infrastructure, so we need to know, we need a single place where all projects are listed. Please, 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 actually not please, you must submit this form if you're running an RCOS project. So thank you to everyone who already has. But again, don't think that if you didn't pitch, you didn't have to submit. All project leads must submit. That's all. And now on to attendance.
All right. So this ends up sounding way more complicated to you guys than it is. There are 3 ways to attend RCOS. You only need to pick one. If you want to do it, there's 2 ways with Venue. The first is, well, for both of them, you have to join the Venue class. I think this will allow you to join the class. If you have issues, let me know, and I will yell to Ethan to help us fix it up. If you have problems, there's a non-Venue way. Use that for now. But Venue is, you go here. This should let you into the class, allow you to line up for the class, sign up for the class. Right here we're running. I'll put out a QR code in a few minutes. The first way to do it is to come here to attend the class and then to upload your, I'm getting a different set of slides because I run the class. But you can submit the QR code, and that will mark you as having attended. I'll give the QR code in just a second. So to do it via Venue, you have to first join, then either scan the QR code, or I will upload the video sometime tonight of this entire meeting. You have to watch like 90% of the meeting before midnight tomorrow, and that will mark you as here as well. Okay, so to do it via Venue, first join, and then either scan the QR code or view the recording on the Venue website. I'll post a link to the recording. Never fear. I'll post that once I get it uploaded, I'll post it into our Discord. The other way to do it is not using Venue, and it's using our Submittee. So if you go to Submittee, right, I have a little attendance box up. If you have problems with Venue, just do the Submittee one for now. You come in, you hit Submit, and this week's passcode is frantic, because with an exclamation point and a capital F, because I was frantically trying to get this done in time for the class. I will post that in to the chat room right now. Exclamation point. So if you go to the chat room, there is the frantic. Here is coming up is our Venue code. All right, so either one of those, if you're on Venue, just scan this QR code in and it will record you as having attended. If you miss the QR code and you miss frantic, you can watch the entire video on Venue. And just do that. Make sure you submit before midnight tomorrow night, Wednesday. I'll give you a whole day. And that's all you have to do. Do one of those 3 ways. QR code, watch the video on Venue, or watch the video on YouTube and put in frantic, or put in frantic into the Submittee. But the only way you'll know about frantic is if you watch the video on YouTube. All right, any questions? So doing you'll have to use a capital F, Utah. But yes, as long as you do frantic with a capital F, it will be enough. Venue is one of the RCOS projects, and one thing people forget about open source is that you can actually make money. There's no way to prohibit somebody from making money from an open source project. That's part of both the 4 freedoms and the 10 principles on Stallman's 4 freedoms, or the open source initiative's 10 principles. So Venue there's a couple of projects trying to take Venue public or commercial. So we're testing them to try to make that it is possible to make that as difficult as possible, but we are trying to help them test out Venue for hope that they'll become billionaires and give us a little lounge for RCOS to hang out in. The link to the Discord is, Frank, do you have the link to the Discord? Other than that, we're done, guys.
I'll drop that in.
So you are welcome to leave. I can see that some of you are leaving already. And please, if you're considering the projects, think about some of our external projects. Having the opportunity to work with some of these external companies is, a really good. Remember that IBM actually does have a presence and a commitment to open source. So having the opportunity to work with them is as good as a resume. Quite honestly. And I've worked with Dennis and Susan for a while. They're really nice people, and they would love to get more people involved in their open source ecosystem. All right, I am stopping and shutting down, and thank you all.